Well, thank you for staying with us for the news review. We'll be getting into them with Salon Brobby of Imani Africa. As and when he joins us, we'll have that conversation with him. But let's get into the papers. And of course, the Sona takes up quite a bit of the headlines this morning. Interesting, though. You saw that piece we put out, the report by Manuel Kranting, my colleague. It would be interesting to find out what your state of the nation is. Yesterday, following on social media, for example, I noticed a lot of you saying different things, manifold things. So what is your state of the nation? You can share with us on social media. The stream is live now. Share with us with the hashtag AMShow on JoyNews. What is your state of the nation? We've heard from those in Abosokai, some people from the streets, some people at the University of Ghana. What is your state of the nation? But the Daily Graphic this morning says, "Nation looks up to us," Bagbin tells Parliament. That is on pages 32 and 33 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. There's also, "Sona doesn't reflect hardships." That's according to the minority. Let me get to that bit. It's on page 16 of the newspaper. And it says, "The minority in Parliament has described the President's State of the Nation address as not reflecting the true hardships and suffering facing Ghanaians presently, seconding the motion for the House to adjourn after the President had delivered the Sona on the floor of Parliament. The minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, said, with the rising cost of living that had affected the prices of fuel, foodstuffs and services, the President downplayed the harsh reality of the Ghanaian economy during his address." And I'm quoting him here, per the Daily Graphic. "We expected the President to deliver the true State of the Nation address, which would reflect the growing hardships and sufferings of Ghanaians," he said. And it goes on to say that Mr. Idrisu said, regrettably, the President did not have the confidence to talk about the economy. So he is continuing with his promises and slogans, but as a constitutional imperative, we, the minority, are ready to debate our majority counterparts and prove a credible alternative government, or provide, I think the word should have been, a credible alternative government. Again, I ask you, what is your state of the nation? What is the picture? But responding to some of these concerns, Mr. Apenyo Markin added that the President demonstrated competence and capacity to be able to resolve the issues that confronted the nation. Quoting him, he says, "For me, the main issue is that he came to Parliament to deliver the State of the Nation address, not to do propaganda," Mr. Apenyo Markin, who is also the MP for Efutu, said. So two different opinions. It's almost so clear, crystal clear, when you look at our Parliament. On most issues, you can determine where they'll lean. And so we can jump out of the fray of MPP and NDC and come to you out there, regardless of how you voted in 2020, 2024. What is your state of the nation? What Mr. President said, is it reflective of how you feel on a daily basis in your pocket? Those are the matters to consider. Now, there's First African Heads ILO. That's also a major issue. It's on page 16 as well. A former Prime Minister of Togo, Gilbert Ungbo, has been elected the 11th Director General of the International Labour Organization and will become the first African to lead the United Nations agency. After 2 rounds of voting, the ILO's governing body elected the 61-year-old to succeed the British trade unionist Guy Ryder, who steps down as Director General at the end of September after 10 years at the helm of affairs. And congratulations are in order for Gilbert Ungbo, if you want to go the purely French way of pronouncing his name. Let's push together against challenges. President rallies citizenry. Lord's NPP NDC for 4th Republican journey. Let's take a quick look at that as well. All of that from yesterday. And President Akufo-Addo has called on all Ghanaians to pull and push together to overcome the economic challenges facing the country. There are many problems that we have to overcome, quoting him, to get back to where we ought to be. I need your support. No president, no parliament, no government can undertake this task all by themselves. We need all Ghanaians to pull and push together, he added. He said the road to recovery from the economic challenges would be hard and long, but the job could be done with the support of all. On a more conciliatory note, the president, who was in a snow white shirt, a blue black suit and a tie to match, arrived at the precincts of Parliament at about 10 a.m. He was welcomed, ushered in by Speaker Kingsford Alban Sumana Bagbin in the company of the majority and minority leaders of the House. He touched on many things: Russia, Ukraine, and the crisis and how it has impacted us, the economy, COVID-19, and more. We'll get into some of the nitty-gritty later on the show. But on the back of the E-Levy, for example, has it really been passed? That is a big question now. The minority has said that it is taking it up in Parliament, at the Supreme Court, the Apex Court, and that it is hoping, it is sure, the Supreme Court will rule in their favor and denounce what happened a few days ago, because the number of 138 was not present at the time. That is half the membership of Parliament. But I've also heard from some other members, in fact, a former member of Parliament on the NDC side, who says, no, this is actually what should have happened. It's okay. It passes. So we'll see what the details are. In the meantime, we've seen people sharing on social media about how they're going to try to escape the E-Levy because, of course, they know that if I don't transact in certain ways, I will not have to pay the tax or the levy or the penalty. Only time will tell what exactly will pan out of this at 1.5%. But let me now bring in Salon Brobby, who generously joins us for another review. Salon, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
Not bad.
Okay, it's good you say not bad. I love your smile. Each time I introduce you, the smile, the beam, in fact, on your face when you join us every Thursday morning. Thank you. So what is your quick reaction to the SONA? I was just talking about it from the Daily Graphic. So you can put together the SONA and the E-Levy, because that too has passed, awaiting the assent of the president, while some say they're taking it to court and it has not in fact passed. E-Levy and yesterday's SONA, and how reflective it was of the real situation for you.
Yeah, so I listened in on the SONA. To be honest, I wasn't really impressed with a lot of things. I don't think the president addressed a lot of issues that were related to the actual state of the nation. I think it was just only concentrated on just a small aspect of what the state of the nation is.
Right.
And there weren't a lot of reassurances about, how people were going to lift up their livelihoods. I didn't think I heard a lot about, let's say, areas like agriculture, for instance, which is going to be very crucial, especially in the wake of the crisis and all. All in all, in my opinion, my personal opinion, it was a very tepid statement, a State of the Nation address. I don't think it did much to reassure some of us. Beyond that, if you want to look at the E-Levy, it was quite obvious that the government was hell-bent on passing the E-Levy, in spite of the fact that this year might be one of the hardest years, probably, we are going to have in terms of the socioeconomic situation since the creation of the Fourth Republic. There are quite a lot of looming threats to our livelihoods, which need to be looked at and addressed. And this passing of the E-Levy is not going to be that panacea that is going to solve any major problems. What I personally do believe is that this E-Levy is just going to be collateralized for some further debt, which you and I and your fellow viewers are going to pay in the short to medium term. And they are going to be used for flagship projects or to continue flagship projects that do not have any direct return on investment, for which some of these loans are being incurred. So for me, it is still bleak, because what it basically means is that we are robbing Peter to pay Paul, but Peter has to pay probably a huge amount of interest whilst being robbed for the quantity that he's being robbed for. It is very sad that we have reached this point. If the government believes that this is the way in which it can really address any problems by still padding on spending that's unproductive and then taxing us for it, and also shooting themselves in the foot by pushing the digitization agenda, because in one of the biggest areas where cashless financial transactions would have taken place was through our digital wallets. But by imposing this tax, I think that all the gains over the last 5 years are going to be reversed. And we are going to go to a point where, unless it's absolutely necessary, a lot of people would not be remitting monies. And of course, because of inflation and the dollar and all of that, that threshold of 100 cedis, for example, does not work logically, because 100 cedis can barely buy you 2 gallons of fuel. So, which means that if I go to the fuel station, for example, to fill up some fuel in my car, I buy 100 cedis of fuel. It's just a trip to town and back, and that's the truth. Even for those who drive small saloon cars, that's the truth. So it means that literally every transaction now is going to handle this tax, in addition to the huge tax burden that we have already.
What do you think about some people, and I've seen the likes of Manasseh Azuri Awene post that, hey, henceforth I'm going to do more cash, and other people will talk to you and say, okay, so if I have to pay someone, I'm not going to pay upfront like 500 cedis. I can spread it over a week and just explain to the person that I'm going to do this. Is that patriotic, especially considering the economic times we find ourselves in? The point is that, like it or not, we have a government and they must find money from somewhere to run the affairs of the state. But the other end of the conversation is, what have you done so far with my taxpayers' money? How do you weigh the two? How do you reconcile them?
I don't think trying to avoid the E-Levy tax should be labeled as unpatriotic in any way. We would all want to avoid any extra expense if we can have the dispensation too, and it doesn't make anybody less patriotic than the other. It's just making someone more prudent in terms of the way he or she handles their transactions. And the truth be told, that is what is going to happen. There's going to be a little reversal to a more cash-based transactions. You see, when those of us in Accra sit in our ivory towers and make decisions and take a lot of things for granted, these are some of the issues that happen. Imagine, for example, if you go to even hospitals in areas around Accra, Kaswa, and the rest, you are not even going into the hinterlands. You will see how people struggle to pay hospital bills of even 100 cedis. And we are talking lots of people. This is not just maybe 1 in 100 or something. In fact, about 80 over 100 people. Even paying small bills of that amount is hard. Now imagine they have to pay a bill and then somebody has to send them the money. And then that person is taxed, and then they are paying the bill and are also taxed, especially via mobile money, because that's how people get money for emergencies these days. So this means that a lot of these things are going to stop, and then people are going to start finding ways to actually handle everything through cash transactions. We are going to revert to a point where some people will insist that if you come to my shop, don't pay by Momo. If you pay by Momo, I won't accept. And quite a lot of us...
Because the people know that if you pay by Momo, there will be deductions later on, and they want to avoid that.
Exactly. And that is what is going to happen at a lot of vendors where paying by Momo has become the norm. It is going to happen. And it's quite unfortunate that we have decided to shoot ourselves in the foot just to try and sort of balance something or the other. I think this is a decision the government will come to regret very badly. And it even makes it poor optics when yesterday, for example, I saw a video in the evening that some people were dancing and saying it was the E-Levy dance, and they were rejoicing over it. I mean, that is in extremely bad taste, and whoever thought that it was beautiful to do that will live to regret it. Not because anybody is going to, let me just issue a disclaimer, not because anybody is going to issue violence against that person, because these days when you are talking, if you don't take time, somebody will come and misconstrue your words. They will live to regret it because it was politically wrong to do something like that at a time when we need humility to look at how we will challenge the nation's resources.
Right.
At a point where we need unity, where each and every one of us has to do their little bit and sacrifice. It is horrible to see the visuals of people dancing and calling something an E-Levy dance, when we know that we are overtaxing, overburdening Ghanaians who are already suffering under the huge burden of inflation and the current world crisis. And we haven't even talked about the fact that this crisis is even escalating to the point where it's going to affect our food security, as well as other aspects of our agricultural output. And we are still going to impose extra levies, and we are dancing and we are rejoicing about it, when the common man has not seen salary reviews and is struggling to figure out how they can even manage their homes. So I think that we have to be very careful, and those in power and those who make decisions have to be very careful about how they appear in public and the kinds of things they do in public, because it's going to have repercussions on them.
All right. Let's quickly get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. There's a story on the back page. It has to do with the Black Stars, but I'll save that for later. Let's look at two stories tied to what we are talking about. Three, if you like. So, Sona message, not true reflection. That's according to the minority. You have said that it was very tapered for you. President Akufo-Addo touts infrastructure achievements. That's the first thing I would put together. And then State of the Nation address, economic measures will address challenges. That's according to Mr. President. Let's do the story on page 15. So the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, says his administration has built more roads than any government in Ghana's history within a 5-year period. Delivering a message on the State of the Nation to Parliament yesterday, the President said the road sector was where his government had recorded its greatest infrastructure achievement. And I'm quoting him here, Selim. He says, in the 5 years of my government so far, more roads have been built, improved, and upgraded than at any other equivalent period under any government in the history of Ghana. He talks about 10,875 kilometers of new roads, which had been constructed in a period of 5 years. I want you to touch on that briefly, from the policy point of view, where you sit and how you feel about this, the reality of it from what you see going around the country, and also tie it into the president saying that economic measures, their economic measures, the recent ones, I don't think we've got to speak on them, will address the country's economic challenges. Put these two together if you can. You can start with the infrastructure achievements.
Yeah, on paper, there are a lot of these infrastructure achievements. There are 2 or 3 caveats to that. We should not gloat about the fact that we have so many roads when the major Eastern Corridor Road is still not fully complete. That's one, because then that would have really eased the cost of, let's say, post-harvest losses, as well as the cost of pulling in agricultural produce from the hinterlands on the eastern side of the country, and would have also been very, very beneficial to food security. That's one. 2, a lot of these roads, there are issues related to the quality of the roads along the line, where we have had several complaints about either contractors not concentrating on these issues. Apart from the big flagship ones, which are the interchanges, of course, most of the other secondary and tertiary routes do not seem to have been constructed well. And even a lot of the contractors for some of these roads have not even been paid for over 3, 4, 5 years now. These are issues that we need to address, because if we had had the complement of the payment of the contractors for a lot of these roads, even that would have boosted economic activity in the country. So it is a hollow thing, one, to say that you have built so many roads when you owe a huge percentage of the contractors, and a lot of them are very, very dissatisfied about the fact that even for years now, a lot of their contracts have not been paid for. And if I'm sure that being a news team, you would have heard some of these things, or you have heard some of these sentiments. And it does not speak well that you are gloating about the roads, and at the same time, the people who build the roads, who spend their money to build these roads, have not been paid for the roads.
Right.
For the economic measures, like I said earlier, yes, a few of them, like the cutting of the pay and then the 20% reduction in budget, etc. We've seen it, but we've not been able to establish the actual quantum what is going to be removed or what cost areas are going to be cut. That's one. We do not know whether some of these areas are actually priority areas that would have actually brought in a lot more productivity into the system.
Right.
There is no mechanism that has been put out there to say that, to benchmark some of these expenditure cuts that have been announced. There's no monitoring mechanism for us to see exactly what is going to be done. Even for the fuel coupons, it is just a pronouncement. We do not have any idea, for example, about how the benchmark is, whether they are going to publish anything of that sort. So until some of us see a lot of these things on the ground, it will take it as the show going on.
All right. Let's look at the Daily Guide newspaper. It talks about some of the matters we've already looked at, but it has this one in there, football age over. And it was interesting hearing the president talk about that. On the back of the Ghana card, the National Identification Authority's work, among others, and digitalization. He's saying all of these things will soon be over. How do you react? What's your quick reaction to that?
Yeah, it's very important because data is now the new gold. Once we have the best, most accurate data about people, especially their bio data for important national activity, it will then become very beneficial for us when we are doing things like planning, when we are trying to allocate certain resources or pay certain people, things like that. So I am all for the fact that we should have better insight into the kind of people, into the people, the demographic structure of the country. And digitalization is one of the things that makes these things possible. So I am all for these kinds of activities that ensure that we have more accurate data on people.
Right.
I mean, it reduces fraud and it ensures that there is more certainty in terms of when planning is done and as to the target people that the planning is going to offer value to. So I think in all, it cuts a lot of costs for the nation when we have very clear ideas of people not being easily able to sort of manipulate their biodata.
Right.
And I think it has a huge advantage. Yes, it does.
Let's wrap the conversation, Salon, with two quick stories. 17.7 billion Ghana cedis spent on containing COVID-19 so far. That's in the Find newspaper. Just to give you a bit of detail in there, the president said that data from the Ministry of Finance shows that 17.7 billion Ghana cedis, or 4.6% of our GDP, has so far been spent in containing the COVID-19 pandemic, if you like, since 2020. According to him, the road to recovery from the many economic challenges fueled by the pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war will be hard and long. Your quick reaction to that as you add your thoughts concerning the qualification of the Black Stars for Qatar 2022. So the first bit, and we can wrap, maybe in a minute and a half for both.
Sure. I think that the 17.7 billion on the COVID response and associated activity has left a lot of room for doubt and speculation because there are so many aspects of that expense sheet that if we really put to scrutiny, we would realize that it ended up not in places that had nothing to do with COVID at all. It is like I said, it's also one of these things where there has been very poor visibility, very poor transparency, and very poor accountability. So, of course, anyone could pick up any expense and then put it on the COVID expense tab.
Right.
And I think that these are some of the issues that have come up that some of us are not very impressed about because when there are emergency situations like this and there is no clear path to accountability, there is the huge tendency for those who are in the chain of decision making to actually abuse the system and abuse it very well. Okay. And we believe that has been the case with the COVID-19 funds. I'm sure that posterity in future, when we have the chance to really do a forensic study of some of these expenditures that have been listed, a lot of things to come to light that will not be palatable. But on a better note, for some of us, we believe in the Ghana project in terms of the Black Stars. It is one point where the nation gets unified in a way. And so for us, for me, I was very excited. I was watching the game, and I was just very positive about the chance of the Black Stars. It looks like it is one aspect of our story that possibly has been one of the most positive things. Looking at what happened in the AFCON, and then what has happened now, we all feel some kind of renaissance, that there's these ambassadors that we've got are probably better in terms of what we believed our potential could be.
Right.
And I think all eyes on Qatar. If I had money, I would also even go and cheer them on. Because, in fact, it doesn't matter even whether we get out at the group stage or we're able to hit the semi-final.
The point is we made it.
The fact that we made it in terms of, in spite of all the odds, and the fact that we have a new team and new people that we can be excited about, the Jikus, the Odois, etc., the Wallacott. I think it's something that Ghana needs. A new set of heroes taken out from the Asians and the Mutaris of old. So for us, I mean, for all of us, I think it's a great thing. Yeah.
Exciting times and exciting catching up with you again, Salon. And I wish you the very best of the day. You say you're not faring too badly. I hope it continues that way and your day is even better. Salon Brobby there, policy analyst with Imani Africa. But on that sporting note, we veer into sports. There's more coming your way. Up next. Stay.